So, why did the jumper cables get divorced? Pardon? Why did the jumper cables get divorced? There was no spark. Okay, so again, that picture is a picture of my husband and I on our wedding day, and 41 years ago. When we got married, I had this belief that it's his job to make me happy. And if I'm unhappy, it has to be his fault. And that's his job. But later I learned that it's my goal. When my goal is to give him happiness, to give him pleasure, to give him joy, then the joy and the happiness comes back to me abundantly.
So we just want to share with you this, what we're going to share with you here today, now, in this session, is probably one of the main things that made a huge impact in our marriage, that turned it to a place where it was mediocre. Well, it was good, we were committed, everything was good, to where marriage can actually be an exciting journey. And so this is the stuff that really changed it for us.
And you truly can have the feeling of love throughout your marriage. You can feel as if you're on honeymoon all the time. You can. And this is what we're going to teach you right now. So this is an amazing lecture information that we're going to teach you right now.
Yeah.
So commitment is very important in a marriage. A marriage is not possible without commitment, right? However, commitment is not what determines the happiness factor in the marriage. It is part of it, because you cannot have happiness if one person's uncommitted, right? So it is definitely a part of it, but it's part of the foundation. But on that, we want to build a feeling of love. How do we keep a feeling of love between us? The feeling of love is like emotions. It goes up and down, right? And it's true. I mean, one morning you wake up, you might feel nothing for your husband. Another morning you might wake up and just say, what an incredible thing that I'm married to this awesome man. And then another morning you might wake up and you had a bad dream about him and you go like, I don't really like him. So our feelings go up and down, right? But in order to have a feeling of love in our marriage, we have to be very intentional. We need to work on it. It is a way of choosing and being very intentional. And to just show you a little illustration of how our behavior can impact our emotions, I want to do a little kind of experiment right now. Behavior experiment is what it's called in cognitive behavior therapy. So just sit straight up right now. Sit up straight, everyone. Okay, and then I would like you to put on your face a fake smile. Everyone knows it's a fake smile, okay? Fake smile, everyone. Big fake smile. And just sit with it for a moment. Does it make you just a tiny little bit happier? Sitting with a smile on your face, even if you know it's a fake smile? Does it feel just a little bit better emotions? Even if we know that it's just a fake smile? It does, doesn't it? Right, so our behavior can impact our emotions. Okay? So in order to have a feeling of love in our marriage, we have to put the behaviors in place. And it won't be there, the feeling of love won't be there all the time, because feelings come and feelings go, right? And feelings can be deceiving. It won't be there all the time, but we want the feeling of love between us as much as possible. And that takes time, energy, and money, and being very intentional. It is accomplished by fulfilling the emotional needs of the other person, and that is what this session is all about. The engine of the car is what drives the car. And you have to have a good engine, reliable engine to drive your car, place where it goes, right? But you can get from point A to point B in a beat-up minivan. Why would you want to drive a beat-up minivan if you can be sitting in the bucket seat with a little sports steering wheel in a Corvette? Why? Right? And that feeling that you get when you sit in a sports car, that feeling is like having the feeling of love in your marriage. Yeah, the beat-up minivan can take you from point A to point B. But if we can choose to rather be sitting in the bucket seat of a Corvette, why would we drive a beat-up minivan? if all financial things were equal. Okay? So then there's the love bank. Every person has in their heart a love bank. And we have a love bank. This is an account for every person that we know. And each person in your life makes either deposits or withdrawals in your love bank whenever we interact with a person. If that person is kind and smiling and they're positive towards you, maybe give you a compliment or encourage you, they've just made an emotional deposit in your love bank for that person. But when somebody says something hurtful or mean or ignores you, they've actually made a withdrawal out of that love bank. Pleasurable interactions are deposits, and painful interactions are withdrawals of love units.
A husband and his wife who commit themselves to meet each other's most important needs will lay a foundation for lifelong happiness in a marriage relationship that is deeper and more satisfying than they ever dreamed possible. And most people do not understand the concepts and the power of this. And that's why we talked in our first two sessions about the foundation of marriage is about doing for others. It's about self-sacrificing. It's about doing and meeting the other person's emotional needs, not what feels good for you or what comes natural to you. Because what your wife and your spouse's emotional needs are may not be natural for you to do. It may take special effort and special time and money to be able to do that, and it doesn't come natural to you. But you need to do it anyway because it pays dividends.
And when we are meeting each other's emotional needs, we are making deposits in the other person's love bank and building a bigger and bigger and bigger love bank account with that person. And then maybe one day if we have conflict, there is withdrawal made, but if you have a big deposit in the love bank, that withdrawal is not going to be so impactful. But if your love bank is already in overdraft, and it's like here, and then that you have a conflict, now that is going to be, the research has actually shown that that is much more impactful to that person than if you had already a big love bank account with that person.
Well, it's like the stock market. Stock market goes up like this. It comes down like that. So most people, when you make deposits take you up slowly over a period of time. So it doesn't help you go and you buy 24 roses. Rather buy, a rose frequently, every day. You'll score more than just go with 12 or 24 roses,
once a year.
Once a year. That's not going to put you up there, okay? You need to go up slowly. But when you say something stupid or something dumb, without thinking, you can make a huge withdrawal, boom, and put you in overdraft very quickly. And so you don't want to go there. But there's an excellent book.
Actually, can I interject? Yeah. I just want to say something here about how the love bank deposits work with men and women. They work differently, okay? With men, 1 point, you get 1 point for every deposit that's made type of thing, right? With women, that works differently. You can actually score points with your wife by not even doing anything. If you buy her flowers on Friday, and she puts that on her table, and her company comes on Sabbath, and they say, "Wow, your flowers are so pretty. Where did you get them?" Oh, my husband gave them to me. That's another deposit. That's another deposit. And on Monday, when someone else comes over to visit her, and they say, "Oh, wow, these flowers are so pretty," my husband gave them to me. That's another deposit. So with women, the deposits work differently, and you can, you can do something that is going to keep paying dividends.
So the stuff we're sharing here doesn't just come from, that things that we thought out or anything. There's actually a book that I want to recommend to you that has changed our lives in this. It's a book called His Needs, Her Needs. Mm-hmm. And it's written by a guy called Willard Harley. He's a marriage counselor, psychologist, and he looked at the risk factors for divorce, and he did research on over 900 couples. Mm-hmm. Where he asked the couples questions. What do you need in order to stay in the marriage? What do you need for you to be happy and to enjoy your marriage? And so what he found was that there were 5 basic needs for men and women that are pretty much the same for across the board, but it's not 100%. You may be a little bit different, but for most guys, it's the same, and for most women, it's the same. And he found that if people meet these needs in their marriages by their spouses, then their happiness factor is high and stays high and rides high. And we're going to go through some of those things with you here this morning.
I want to make a little interject here. Most affairs happen because of unmet emotional needs.
Yes.
And we never want someone of the opposite sex to meet the emotional needs of our spouse. I do not want my husband at work, he works in an office full of women, to have his need for admiration to be met by the women in his office, but he doesn't get that at home. And he doesn't want my need for meaningful conversations to be met by any other man. He wants to meet that emotional need. And that is a truth. The research has shown that most affairs happen because of unmet emotional needs. And so what we're going to be teaching you guys right now is a huge happiness factor in the marriage, but it's not 100% foolproof, but it is also a way of affair-proofing our marriage. Yeah. By meeting each other's emotional needs.
And we call it marriage insurance. We need to take. We take insurance on other things, on our cars, on our houses, on everything else, life insurance on our lives, but we need to take marriage insurance to make sure that we protect our marriages. So, because the devil knows where the weaknesses are, he knows what strokes you need, and he'll send the right person to give you those strokes.
Yeah.
Right?
He'll plant someone.
Yeah, and he'll plant somebody. And so we need to be aware of these things and realize what my needs are, and also if you know what your wife's and your spouse's needs are, then you can deliberately, intentionally work on those and make that person feel very happy and have that feeling of joy and of happiness most of the time. And that's what we want. So let's look at the needs. Need number 1 for a woman. Okay, the need number 1 for a woman is the need for affection. Okay? The need for affection, which we need to look at what is the definition of affection. Affection is physical touch in a non-sexual way. A lot of women will say, well, my husband touches me, but he only touches me when he makes advances because he wants to have sex. Okay? And if that's the case, women become resentful because they know the guy only touches her when he wants sex from her. Okay? But we're talking now about non-sexual touching. Okay? And men frequently do not understand these needs in a woman. I grew up in a home where there was no physical touch and affection whatsoever. So when we got married, that was a total foreign thing to me, that she wanted to sit and touch me. And, I wanted to, I'm busy here with stuff. I'm doing things, sit over there, sit a little bit further away, or things like that. And so it was, and guys get irritable over this. And so, why does she always want me to hold her hand? Why does she always want me to touch her? And so, it's something that we need to learn And most men are like that. But unfortunately, when Rover the dog comes in, he gets all the affection, okay? And many times, what message do you send when a husband comes home from work, and he gets out the car? Who's first out there to meet him? The dog, right? And so he's down on his knees and he grabs the dog and he pets him and he's just happy. And then Johnny comes and Susie comes and he picks up the kids and he swings them around. And then he takes up his case and he comes to the door. When he comes to the door, he's tired. He's had a long day's work, so he plonks his case down. And his wife is the last one that gets anything. And if she gets anything, she may get. That's it. How was your day? Oh, it was tiring. He sits down on the couch and he puts the TV on, whatever. What message are you sending? Is your wife number one? Is she the one that you show your affection to? Or the dog comes first and then the kids and then the wife? It needs to be the other way around. You need to walk past the dog. The dog can wait. You go for your wife first, right? And then according to Ellen Friedman, you give a 10-second kiss at least. When you kiss for 10 seconds, chemistry happens, guys. Let me let you know that. If you've kind of forgotten, but chemistry happens when you kiss for 10 seconds. So the first time you do that, 10 seconds feels like a long time if you haven't done it for a while. But
you have to time it in the beginning.
You've got to time it in the beginning, okay? So this is the number one need women wants and needs, the physical affection.
And I just want to interject right here. We say non-sexual physical touch and affection because we as women need to be touched as frequently as possible in any way, whether it's your hands, your feet, you're putting your arms around each other. We thrive on being touched, right? Most women, okay? There are differences, obviously, but most women. And we have to tell men it's non-sexual physical touch and affection. But what men don't realize is actually all touch to a woman is sexual and is preparing her to make love to her husband that night. But if the only time he comes to touch her is when the TV goes off at 9:30 or something like that, then she is going to feel almost like this is abuse, right?
So what does it mean for a woman to be touched? Non-sexual touching sends a message of security, protection, comfort, approval, the message that I care about you, you are important, I'm concerned about you, I don't want anything to happen to you, I want to help you. These are all the messages that are sent when you touch your wife on a regular basis. And we do that with other people too. When you just talk to somebody, it's one thing. But when you take somebody's hand and you shake their hand, there's energy and there's things that happen because when you touch somebody, when you lay your hand on someone.
It's a little more of a bond,
It's
right?
a little bit more of a bond. So, yes, we need to touch our wives, but we need to also be careful who we touch and how we touch. And we're going to talk about that a little bit in boundaries in our last session on that, because one can take that overboard as well, and we will address some of that.
With people of the opposite sex.
With people of the
right?
opposite sex in particular,
Inappropriate,
yes.
yeah.
Okay, so let's continue on here with the need of affection for a woman. A hug is a skill that most guys need to learn. We need to learn that we need to hug our wives on a regular basis. And again, do a meaningful hug, not just a quick hug. Hug and hold. Okay? Mm-hmm. We did that when we were dating. Mm-hmm. Why is it so hard now? So we need to just think about these things into what we need to do there. Send a card or a note. And nowadays we can send texts. Send a message to your wife from work. A dinner invitation, some just special things that you show your affection. Open the door, your car door. We've made a point of that. We looked at what happens when people walk in and stuff, and we've lived in a culture where men have forgotten their manners. We will see people walk on the beach together. They go for a walk. And the guy walks 3-4 steps ahead of his wife. They're on a walk out together. You would think they're in the most romantic setting. They can't even walk next to each other. The guy walks 3-4 steps, and she's kind of just trailing here behind him. And you look at it, what is that showing? What is it showing the children? What is it showing other people? Are they really enjoying what they're doing together, or are they just out there by themselves, each in their own world? So, walk with your wife. Open the door for her. Let her go through. Open the car door. Holding hands, phone calls, texts, back rubs, walks, any of those kind of things are all things that will send messages of affection. People walk the dog, and they pet the dog, and they do all kinds of stuff, and they go wherever the dog wants them to go, but they don't walk with their spouses. And the pets and animals get stroked and touched way more than people. When they go to extended care homes where the old people are, these people are hungry for just somebody to touch them. And sometimes as physicians, they've taught us, when you're with somebody old or somebody that's terminally ill and that's dying, just put your hand on them. And their blood pressure drops, their pulse rate drops, they just become calm. Just because somebody touches them or just hold their hand. And so it's important. What more? Your spouse. Men need to understand this and need to realize that non-sexual touch and an affection is the thing. You need to do it at least 10 times per day. At least 10 times a day. Now, for me, who came from a place where I didn't know any of these things, I had to learn. I had to actually have a little list on my phone to write down. Say something about her hair. Say something about her dress. Touch hers. And I had to actually make a checklist, and I checked it off initially to remind me. Until it became second nature for me, because it was just not in my paradigm. She would come at the end of the day and say, well, you haven't said anything today about it. So, well, I did. No, you didn't. And we'll have an argument, okay? Because I thought I did, but I didn't, actually. And so we need to think about things. Sex and affection you cannot have one without the other. And that's why many guys, they want regular sex from their wives, but they don't show any affection. And so that prepares the wife to respond to the husband in a sexual way. And you can't have one without the other one. If you do, they will be resentful. Women become resentful towards sex because they know that's the only time that he wants to touch me. And so that's why it's important for us to focus on that. So do some special things. Hug in the morning before you get out of bed. Have a hug. Say something meaningful before you leave the bedroom. Say some words of appreciation. Say something at the breakfast table. Or leave a message. Or when you drive to work, if you get up before your wife and she's still sleeping when you go to work, or whatever the case may be. Hug and kiss before you leave or when you come home. We've forgotten all those things. It's just simple things. When you get home, kiss your wife. You haven't seen her for the whole day. And take some time. Take some couch time. Take some walk time. Take 30 minutes or just where you guys just go for a walk and de-stress and just share your day of what's happening. Surprise her with the flowers. And it's not expensive nowadays. You can buy, you can go to Walmart and buy a little flower every day for that matter. And, $2 for a rose with a green stem on it. It's less than a coffee. And people have money for that on a regular basis. So you can do any of those kind of things. Make a special date or a special time that you do any of these things. And show her that she's important and show affection through many of these things. One person can meet the other person's needs, and this can turn a marriage around. It certainly did our marriage. It just brought a little spark and a little joy into it. Husbands need to learn to meet the needs for affection and conversation with their wives. And affection is the environment in the marriage. Sex is a special event. And so you want to have the environment. If you want sex to happen frequently, you need to create the environment for it to happen in. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. And so create that special environment so that it can happen. Affection is a way of life, a canopy that covers and protects a marriage. And most women need affection before sex means much to them. And so if guys can just understand that, then things will go much, much better.
So the number one need for men is for sexual intimacy. And frequently, a man's sex drive is spoken. I've been in many conversations with women where the women are very negative and say very negative things about their husband's sex drive and that he wants sex so frequently. However, we as women need to change our paradigm. We need to change our thoughts. Instead of having negative thoughts about our husband and that he wants to have sexual intimacy frequently or, on a regular basis, instead of thinking, oh no, he wants sex again, we need to change our thought. My husband wants to be bonded with me. Because men experience being bonded with a wife through sexual intimacy. And we need to change that thought. My husband wants to feel bonded with me. And it is different for a man than for a woman. For a woman, the physical touch and affection and the meaningful conversation feels very intimate and is very bonding for the woman. But however, the experience of sexual intimacy is really what a man experiences, really being bonded with his wife. And for a man to not have sexual intimacy on a regular basis with his wife is for a woman like not being talked to, maybe being talked to once a week. A man experiences it in the same way as what we would feel if we're not talked to.
I'm going to interject something here. Dr. Laura tells I don't know, Laura Heldzinger, any of you guys know about her? Yes, just a few years. She tells a joke just to kind of demonstrate this point.
The differences between men and women.
And it's just because we just see each other in a different way. And she says, if a guy comes home after a 12-hour work and he gets home and the wife is at the door and she meets him and she's got nothing on. She's just got a jacket on. And when he comes in the door and he opens the door, she says, doesn't matter how tired he is or how long he's worked. If he opens the door and she just flashes him right there, he'll just say, game on, let's go for it. All right? And they'll go and they'll have sex. She says, now flip that around. And everybody laughs and everybody says, this is good. She says, flip that around. If the wife comes home and the husband is at home and she opens the door and he's there and he's got nothing on, he's in his birthday suit. She would say, you pervert, what's wrong with you? Right? Right? So this is just the way we look at things. We look at things in a total different way. And I've actually, as a physician, we laugh about some of these things, but this is actually quite sad. Because people actually believe these things. There are many conservative Christian institutions and people that have taken the male sex drive onto a biological level. Almost because we're now into this era of evolution and all these kind of things. And so they've taken it onto a evolutionary level. We're just an animal that works on a hormonal cycle. And I've got to get my low T up in order if I want anything to happen. We're not animals. A man makes love with his brain, not with his private parts. That's just the tools. But you make love with your mind, with your frontal lobe, with your brain. And so sex for a man is not just procreation. Like Elmamarie was sharing, it is bonding with your wife. It's a sign of a covenant relationship with the one that God puts in your life. I will have guys that will come to me
Sorry,
in my practice. Yes,
quick?
go ahead.
And when we have the one flesh union, where we are spiritually one flesh, emotionally one flesh, mentally one flesh, and physically one flesh, the sexual experience is a multidimensional experience. It's a spiritual experience. It's an emotional experience. And it is a physical experience.
I've had many guys from churches come to see me that would say, is there any medicine that a guy can take to reduce his desire, his libido, to have sex with his wife because his wife is unresponsive towards him? Several dozens I've had that will talk about those kind of things. So those things are sad because people don't understand the dynamics that happens with these things in the marriage relationship.
And still talking about the number one need for men, sexual fulfillment. A man makes a commitment to his wife because he trusts her to be as sexually interested in him as he is in her. And he trusts her to meet his need for sex as she trusts him to meet her emotional needs for physical touch and affection and meaningful conversation. Marital golden rule. Meet your spouse's needs as you would want your spouse to meet your needs. And that, I believe, is a key to happiness. And why did God make it in such a way? He could have made us that we were the same, that we had the same emotional needs. Why did God make it that a man's, and we're generally speaking now, we are generalizing, okay, but that a man's 5 basic emotional needs are opposite than a woman's 5 basic emotional needs? Why would God have made it that way? It's because we need to love unselfishly. Coming back to our first seminar, right? To love unselfishly, to love sacrificially, to seek to give each other joy and pleasure in the relationship, to love unselfishly. That is when that can really be fulfillment in our marriage. When we both love unselfishly and sacrificially, which we said is the law of heaven, yes. Right? Mm-hmm. If a man does not communicate his care for her often and effectively, the wife will feel that he's insensitive towards her and uncaring. You cannot enjoy your end of the marriage if your spouse doesn't enjoy his or her end. If you care about your spouse, you don't use or deny your spouse out of selfishness or ignorance. Meet their emotional needs as enthusiastically as you want them to meet yours.
All right, need number 2 for a woman is the need for intimate conversation. A woman wants to be with a man who cares deeply about her and for her. And the way that we can do that, intimate conversation and affection are inseparably entwined. So if you want to have your wife experience this, you need to take time to talk with her. Intimate conversation and affection should both be part of the relationship on a daily basis. This way she feels close to you, and the essential ingredient there is would also then drive her willingness to respond to your needs and to be more willing to make love to you on a more regular basis. So intimate conversation is a very, very important number 2. Time together daily. We need to take time, make time to talk together. Schedule the time together every day. Now, in order for this to really kind of work well, the primary purpose needs to be intimate conversation, not just talking about everyday stuff, the weather and about, business and all those kind of things. We need to make it, we want to get to know the person in a deeper and in a better way. So do a dinner where you can go out together and talk about things. Have a tennis game or do some sport activity together where you can spend time together. So these things are huge, big deposits in the love bank. And in order for this to happen, you need to spend some significant time. Nothing in life just happens. We need to make time for it. Otherwise, it doesn't happen.
Couples who are in love need to spend about 15 hours a week
Yes.
together. That includes having meals together and working out together, exercising together. But about 15 hours a week is really what a marriage needs to really thrive.
So conversation is an integral part of a woman's emotional needs. Conversation is necessary for problem solving and conflict resolution. So if you don't take time to spend together to talk, how in the world are you going to have time to solve problems and to plan and to find a resolution to these things? So intimate conversation is emotionally bonding. Okay, so we need to take the time so that we can bond with, you can bond with your wife. Okay, so this is hard for guys. It's not an easy thing. Okay, but in the same way that you can learn how to play golf, you get videos, you get books, you get coaching stuff, you go, you practice, you do the same way that you can learn that. In the same way, you can learn to do this. Just put some time in day by day, and it will come and it will create intimacy with her. Focus attention on what you're feeling, thinking, and doing, and it's personal. Ask questions. Ask questions. What did you do and what did I do to make you feel good today? What did I do to make you feel not so good today? Did I say something negative way? And let her share some of her feelings and start speaking and communicating on a deeper level than just everyday stuff.
Okay, so the number 2 need for men is for recreational companionship. A man has a need for recreational companionship, and that need must be met in order to sustain the feeling of love in a marriage. The danger lies in the two of them simply continuing to grow further and further apart, and this can lead to an affair and divorce. The wise couple will correct this or avoid this trend in their marriage. What the two of you can do together is both partners make a list of activities that you enjoy, and then sit together, bring your 2 lists together, and be willing to try out your spouse's favorite activities. I'm not recommending the one in the picture. But cross out activities that you cannot do together, and explore all the activities together that remain. And engage only in activities. I'm not saying that here or there, but it should be the exception, not the rule, that the wife is going out and doing her shopping expeditions with her girlfriends, and the husband is going out and playing golf with his buddies. That should be an exception, not the rule. But that the rule is the general activities that we do together, because we're creating memories together. Otherwise, we're both creating memories with all these other people, but how many memories do we have together?
Yeah. Well, it reminds you of the lady who came to a seminar like this, and she heard this message, and so she decided that she was going to get involved in the activities and the recreational stuff with her husband. So she said to her husband, next time when you go hunting, I want to go with you. And he said to her, are you sure you want to do this? We're out in the bush there. So she says, yes, honey, I want to do this. I want to go with you. Please buy me a rifle. So they to the store, and he buys her a rifle, and she learns how to use this. And so the day came, and they went out on this trip together, and she was just thrilled to death. She's got her own rifle, and so she's going to hunt with her husband. And during the part of the day, they kind of got a little separated, and he was off to one side, and suddenly he heard a shot go off in the bushes there, and a big commotion broke out, and people were yelling and screaming and going on and stuff, and he thought, what in the world's going on? So he better go and find out. He couldn't find his wife, and so when he get there, he got to the place, and there was a guy there, and a guy was yelling, and he saw his wife there. And he saw the guy yelling at his wife and says, okay, lady, you can have your deer. Let me just get my saddle off. We don't recommend that kind of joining in the recreational activities, okay?
Okay, yes, so there is a strategy We've explained that. And that I would really recommend that you guys do that in the next couple of weeks ahead, to make those lists and then to make one list of activities that the two of you can enjoy and be willing to participate in those activities. I remember when we first got married, he came to microwave lessons with me, learning how to cook in the microwave. And I went watching cricket. In South Africa, they don't play ball, they play cricket, right? Yeah. So I knew nothing much about the game at all, but I went and watched some cricket games with him. So the couple who plays together stays together.
All right, so let's move on here to need number 3. Need number 3 is honesty. Honesty leads to security. A woman doesn't feel safe and secure if her husband is not telling her everything that he's doing or where he's going and what he's planning, and doesn't share his life with her. And so this is a bright golden thread that runs through all of the needs here, that she needs to feel the sense of security, that he shares accurate information about the past, the present, and the future with her. So it's important to cultivate that in your relationship. Lack of honesty leads to lack of negotiation, because people withdraw because they can't believe or they don't trust the other person. Without honesty and openness, a couple can resolve or decide very little because there's no communication going on. So if you want communication to continue on, you need to make sure that you are open and honest and that you share your life with the other person. Okay? Dishonesty is one of the most destructive habits a spouse can have in a marriage. If you have dishonesty, lying, there's no trust, there's no respect. There's no respect, there's no marriage. So you need to focus on those kind of things. A woman's needs for honesty, a spouse who keeps their thoughts, activities, and plans to themselves is failing to meet the need for honesty and openness. Reveal to your spouse as much information about yourself as you know. Your thoughts, your feelings, your habits, your likes, your dislikes, past history, daily activities, and future plans. Very, very few guys actually share what they think about and the things, their desires, their inner feelings, their inner thoughts to their spouses. And it's important to do that. A policy of radical honesty makes for the happiest marriages. And so it's important to be open, to be an open book when it comes to these kind of things. Number 3.
Number 3 need for men is for an attractive wife. And we're talking here now about good grooming, right? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. This does not mean that the wife must look like a beauty queen. However, she should try to look attractive to her husband the way he likes her to look. She does not need to be eternally young. None of us are, right? But getting old is not an excuse for gaining weight and dressing poorly. This would be a hit on the love bank. I had a friend say to me one time, "Oh, if I was to wear what my husband likes, I would be walking around in flared skirts all the time." I was like, well, why not wear a flared skirt if that's what your husband enjoys and if that's what he likes? We don't need to be immodest, but we can wear clothes that our spouse likes and finds attractive. And in the privacy of your home or your bedroom, you can wear something that's more daring. Most men have a need for physical attractiveness, and they appreciate good grooming on their wife and a good-looking wife. Any woman can enhance her attractiveness to her husband with good grooming. Balance your intake of calories with a proper amount of exercise, and good grooming is essential. Wear clothes that your husband finds attractive. I consider that important in my wardrobe. It's not necessarily what I like, but how, do you like that, Does he like that on me, And also practice good personal hygiene.
And need number 4 for a woman is the need for financial support. Now, you would think in today's age and life that, that has kind of fallen by the wayside, but actually it has not. Women still have an expectation that a guy should be able to provide for her, for the family, for the kids, for the home. Whatever she earns and stuff may be a added added income to that, or maybe they can do that together, but she still would like the guy to at least earn enough money to provide for them in a proper way. So a woman wants that. Most women still expect their husbands to earn a living. They still have an emotional need for financial support, even in today's life. Many women need to have the choice of whether they want to work or not, or whether they want to stay home and at least have the ability to stay home and be with the kids and raise the children. And so that is also an important aspect.
If that's their choice, right?
If that's their choice. Or maybe she just wants to work part-time and not work full-time. Mm-hmm. So how can you make that work sometimes? Because not all guys earn money. You know, they need the income of the wife as well, a combined income in order to make ends meet. And so sometimes, how can we work around that? So many times we have to learn maybe to live on less. You know, and spend less and work on a budget and see how that comes out so that we can get by on a little less. Lower our standard of living and live in a smaller home, drive more reasonable cars. And when it comes to money and marriage, less may be more. Many times. I mean, many of you have seen some of these people that are into these simplistic things and simple lives now and minimalism, you know, where people can get by with much less. Now, some of these guys go a little crazy. They go off the other end, you know, one shirt, one underwear, you know, all these kind of things, you know. There's a balance there, so let's keep that balance. Need number 4 for men.
Okay, need number 4 for men is for domestic support. The husband has a need for his wife to manage the home. Now, some couples do not fit this pattern, and the husband might stay home and take care of the children. That is a choice that the couple can make, right? But for the most part, a man still has a need for his wife to manage the home. And in families where both spouses work, we need to identify, make a list of what all the household responsibilities are, and you both assume responsibility for some tasks and assign the remaining tasks to each other. And if you have children, they can, of course, also participate in that and indicate where you need help and help where your effort is most appreciated.
Need number 5 for women is the need of family commitment. And this is an area where a lot of guys fall short, especially if there's trouble or there's arguments in the family. The guys withdraw. They don't want anything to do with the kids. They don't want to, you know, get involved with the kids' education or helping them, or they just withdraw from their commitment to the family. That's very detrimental. A woman has a strong need for a family unit, and the husband needs to be, the spouse needs to be the leader and show that he's as interested in the children and the success of the children as the wife is, and not more interested in his Harley Davidson and his sports and his golf and all the other stuff that he's doing, and not care what the children are doing and where they're going and what grades they get in school or whether they're even passing. So we need to look at that as well. Leadership and educational development of the kids. And she wants to have a husband that she can look up to and be proud of, that he is taking a leadership in the family and in the children. And so don't withdraw, because many of these guys that withdraw, they will be leaders at their work. They're office managers, they foremen at their company. Many of them are deacons in the church, elders in the church, and they are Sabbath school superintendents, and they take lessons, but at home, they could give a care less. And so what kind of message is that sending to your wife? Is she going to have respect for you and have a feeling of love towards you and be willing to be sexually responsive towards you? No, you're just another child. She's got 2 already or 4 already. She doesn't need another one. So it's important for us to realize that. And that kind of life and that kind of choices send a wrong message to the wife, and she will not respect you. All right, the father's influence in the family is very positive, and most women know that. And they want the men to be involved in the family in a profound way, because that affects the outcome of the children. You know, there's some research that have shown that when the father is involved in spiritual things, the likelihood of the kids to stay in the church is twice as high than if the mother is involved with spiritual stuff. So what the dad does and his spiritual leadership in the home is twice as important whether the kids are going to stay in church than what the wife is. So it's important for us to do those kind of things. So focus on that. Like Elma mentioned already here, 15 hours a week for intimate conversation time in the marriage. Another 15 hours per week for family time. Now, that doesn't mean just one-on-one. That means eating together, going and exercising together, doing some activities with your kids. So there's many things that can count for these kind of things. Doing family devotions or family worship. Okay, time budget is like financial budget. It keeps your priorities straight. So budget the time to do these kind of things so that it can actually happen. Need number 5 for men.
The need number 5 for men is the need for admiration. Very crucial to a man. Honest admiration is a great motivator for most men. When a woman tells a man that she thinks he's wonderful, that inspires him to achieve more. And men are inspired by their admiration and respect from their wives. That was too quick. He draws confidence from her support. Appreciate your husband for what he already is. Admiration can help men believe in themselves. Admiration energizes and motivates men. Be his most enthusiastic fan. And he draws confidence from your support. While criticism causes men to become defensive, admiration energizes and motivates them. We do not want our husband to receive more admiration from any other person on earth than from us. And we can always find character qualities in our husband that we can admire and we can appreciate.
So identify your spouse's basic needs. You know, many times people don't understand the power of this. A guy can have a beautiful, attractive wife, and then he has an affair with an ugly duckling from his job, and you think to yourself, what in the world did he see in this woman? Why did he go there? And the reason for it is because she said the right stuff. She said the right words. She met his need for admiration. She stroked him emotionally, and he got things from her that he didn't get from his wife. That's the reason. Not because she's an attractive person and knocked him off his feet or he couldn't keep his zipper up. It's got nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that his emotional needs were not met. So this is very, very powerful and very, very important for us to realize if we want to protect our marriages from these kind of things.
And I just want to interject here that we're not making an excuse for any person.
No.
If our emotional needs are not being met in a marriage, and the truth is, there will be times in every marriage when our emotional needs are not met. After we've had a new baby, you know, when we have a family member who's very sick and we're frequently in the hospital, there are going to be times in every marriage when our emotional needs are not met. It is no excuse to have an affair. But we can speak to our spouse. We can have those conversations and say, you know, I am feeling that my emotional needs are not being met in the marriage right now. How can we change this? How can we have more time for each other? This is what I need, specifically. This is what I need. And tomorrow morning, we are going to be talking about having crucial conversations and how to be able to have those conversations. But that's how we resolve the problem if our emotional needs are not being met in the marriage. We speak about it, we address it. We do not consider any other options that the enemy, the devil, wants to bring into our lives. And he will always plant someone at work, wherever, at church, that will want to be intrusive in your marriage. And it's crucial. Tomorrow we're also going to be talking about boundaries, how to draw boundaries around our marriage.
Because if you don't address these things, you make yourself very vulnerable. Because deep inside you're hurt because you're not addressing your needs not being met by your spouse, and you're not having a conversation with her, you're not having a problem-solving conversation, you're not addressing this in a conflict situation, and you're hurt inside. And now somebody steps in from the outside, and you may be able to brush it off, but if you let it go for a long period of time, it will get to you. And so it just becomes very difficult. And so that's why it's important to address these things when they do come up. So become an expert in meeting your spouse's needs. So like I said, I had to write these things down. Say something about her hair. So say some words of commitment. Write it down. Say 10 words. Make 10 non-sexual touches per day. And check it off so that you can get used to it until it becomes a habit. And you do it automatically. So meet emotional needs that are low in your priorities. You know, we all show affection in a certain way. We all have certain love languages that become natural to us. But that may not be your spouse's love language, or it may not be her emotional need. So it's difficult for you to do something in the other person's language. So we need to do that so that we can, do something that doesn't come easy and natural for us. The extramarital affair arises out of unmet emotional needs. We've mentioned that already. People have affairs in spite of strong convictions because of unmet emotional needs. That's how powerful these things can be.
And none of us can say that I'm exempt from that. None of us can say that. So it's very important for us to put those boundaries in place and be committed in our marriage and committed to meeting each other's emotional needs.
All right, we're almost done here, so let's finish up these last couple of slides here.
What could your spouse do for you that would make you the happiest? Think about that for a moment. That's probably your deepest emotional need right there. What could you do for your spouse that would make them the happiest? Think about that. That's probably their greatest emotional need. Then talk about and write down 5 things each. The way to keep a husband and wife happily married is to meet the needs that are most important to each other.